Cruising road, but I got a messy deuce. Good, but I don't want that sneaking out of my hands quite that quickly. I think it is. And I think she probably made it. They probably made it really better place. Do you think someone should be able to study and get a license for psychiatry who's been raped by a police officer when she was 15 years old? Do you think? What do you think about that? these police officers roll around these towns like they're hot stuff. Meanwhile, sexually assaulting anyone they can. I wonder if I allowed to myself. I think I should have done that. Exactly. I didn't know. Does the bus have to be off? What if the bus driver doesn't notice you? You should really detail these types of buses who, for most of their lives, thought that it was pretty easy to get a bus ride, but not in the Oceanside area. Right? Or it's a little more complicated. Right? Just sitting at a bus stop that's been physically designed by engineers and hardworking and honest people to allow bus drivers to see that somebody's sitting there. A major bus stop, by the way, and to blow by it, so an Asian woman has to get by distressed. And on top of her distress, you have to yell at her in front of an entire busload of people for being stupid and not knowing that she's supposed to stand up and there. Really. Right? The bus driver, the same bus driver I witnessed driving away from numerous people at bus stops and having no interest in paying attention to what's going on in the bus. Right? And if someone don't like it, it's their fault. And I could actually point them out to you. I know exactly who it is. Okay, so that's a complicated bowel movement. A little bit of crap got in my underwear, so I had to take my underwear off, and I just turned it around. And then I had a napkin to sort of finish up wiping my butt, so that it doesn't get infected with crap, which is actually quite acidic to the anus. And it's doing pretty good. If it starts to act up, I'll just take my underwear off and reapply some cream. I did that yesterday. I got home, I didn't have any problems, so it's good. There's some crap there. There's a local meth addict bisexual who stalks me. Comes up to me in the woods every now and then. I don't really need to be acquainted with him, but that's what they do. I get all kinds of stalkers. I did met like one natural man. He works in a produce department of a store south of here. He has a beautiful mastiff dog named Winston, sorry. And Winston is beautiful. I don't know the guy's name, but I know the dog's name. Just a lovely, lovely creature. And yeah, really enjoy meeting him. And I wish everybody was like Winston. So I had 3 crops today. Pretty good. The last 2 kind of uncomfortable. Uncomfortable doesn't mean it's like uncomfortable crapping. It just means there's complications in some way. And there's always negative language happening on. My mom, I'm not surprised, my mom spent some time in the cold talking to a local sexual predator who lives in the building. She's actually the girlfriend of the building manager. Can you believe that? And she's a creep. She sexually harassed me on more than one occasion. She's a creep. She's a creepy human being. And she kept my mom in the cold for 15 minutes. I said, "Weren't you upset?" "Oh no." She said, I don't mind talking to her. She doesn't care what I say that this woman has done because my mom just doesn't hear those things. She's a sociopath for women, right? And it doesn't matter what they do, it can never be bad enough. But my dad, who she hasn't talked to in 25 years, oh, she wants him dead. You know, the father of her children should suffer and die every day of his life. You know, it's like, oh, okay. You know, but women are perfect. They're all angels. Their vagina has angelic wings. So whatever they discharge upon other human beings, it's okay. We love you. And it's a really awful thing because these women never get help then. Would you, if you had a son or daughter who was sexually harassed by someone in the building, would you just spend time chatting with them? But it's good that she does in a way because female sociopaths like this, they demand attention. They like attention. They like being somebody. And they have no accountability. She's probably a feminist. Nothing against feminism, it's just like a lot of crazy people have value systems. Right? You know? You could be a good person and be a Christian. You can be a good person and be a feminist. You can be a bad person and be a feminist. So, but you couldn't be a bad person and follow my philosophy. It's too intricate. Right? People would see right through your red eye. A bad witch really isn't a witch. I guess they're training children to be gender-neutral psychopaths because that's the uniform role-playing of the world. It makes you better whatever profession you choose because whatever profession you choose is connected to the world religion, and so you have to be compatible with that world religion, which is what all police work for because they're polys, just like Paul in the Bible, they're tax collectors. Right? You don't pay enough already, and you do, believe me. And society is paying like thousands of dollars for every dollar you spend to keep up the fucking delusion of the world, which eats into your flesh and blood and is in fact based upon doing so. But don't believe me. Just use the holes in your head. You'll see what I mean. People don't use the holes in their head. The wonderful trillions of sensory organs in your blood. So what is it, Tuesday? Tuesday. So they, the royalty of that control this area, have been keeping it dark and cold for all of January so far. For the last basically 3 weeks. Virtually no sun. But I think we might get it today. Just for me. It's sucked in. Oh. I wish my mom well. I tell her, she doesn't listen to me, but I tell her, like, it'd be nice if you release some of your bitterness towards my father, if only for my sake, She doesn't go on about it. And then, my sister carrying on the tradition of hating men. Holy fuck. It's quite the tradition, eh? They do all this work for their children. They just don't give a fuck about them. I live with this lady who was a sexual predator, a state psychologist. And, she was divorced, of course. And, she never said one nice thing about the father of her children. Not once, ever. It's true, it's honest in the sense that they really can't. Maybe they're not good guys or whatever. But it's like, this is the father of your children. This is half their chromosomes. Do you think your children see something nice about them? You don't. That's your problem. Yeah. You can test a sociopath's mind, by the way, if you want to know how. You can test anyone you need. I can show you how. First off, first thing you do, listen to them. They usually want to control most of the conversations. But listen to their body language and see if they're listening to your body language. But just listen. I mean, that's the main thing. I mean, all sociopaths give off information indicating that they have a brain parasite. And the worst of them is part of some sort of social grouping, which they're quite proud of. Christian, governmental, sexual, economic, cultural. All groups are filled with sociopaths, so you have to be one to be in a group. And if people listen to me say, like, oh, you're stupid. But, George Carlin said the same thing. Other people have written books about it, but, you hear a witch say it, it's like, oh, it can't possibly be true. Because it doesn't really matter what most people say, because people don't even fucking listen to it. They tell you things all the time, all through knowledge and history. People don't listen to it. You see, you have to listen. Right? If you're already expecting, if you really have an emotional need to cover up what's wrong with the world, you will. You watch a movie and go, oh, that's just for entertainment. Oh, and you go on with your life. And no doubt it is entertaining, but it's also in training you. And in every movie, every TV show, there's always gender swap people, gender swap characters. Even if they're not really gender swap, they'll behave that way. Chandler and Joey, Charlie and Alan Harper, right? All characters. The mother in Leave It to Beaver, right? And the beaver themselves, the children, all these kinds of things. All gender swapped, or they behave as though they've been gender swapped. Right? This is to get your brain irritated into lowering its inhibitions about asserting its critical judgment faculties in order to protect itself from an onslaught of other commensurate values, information, or stimuli. The provision being made, like a magical belief, that this problem is going to be resolved by what you're watching. So the thing creating the problem is going to resolve the problem. So you wake up in the world and you're in the world, and the education system creates a problem for you. And so you think it's going to resolve that problem. But the things creating the problems that you believe, once they hurt you, you set out a magical belief to the system that they're going to solve the problem. But you never really do anything. And as long as you give everything to a system that's going to solve all your problems, the one that creates all the problems, like a TV show or a Bible, guess what's going to happen? You have to become a sociopath in order to think that any problems are being solved. And the only thing that you're doing to solve problems is to get people, or your children, to go into suspensions of disbelief, commensurate with growing up in a crack den, and thinking that it's wonderful, because you don't have any of that real detailed appreciation for the nature of the human mind, or your own health, because it's all dictated by an endless sea of slogans and economic comparatives. I love you, but I've got to go to work. I love you, but you have to go to school. I love you, but. I love you, but. There's the slogan of the working person. I love you, but. You must really love butts. I love big butts, and I don't know why. I love big butts, and I don't know why. A juicy double, right? It's one thing, and it's another. It's a Janus anus, right? A Janus face is an anus. It's a juicy double. It's one thing and it's something else, and it doesn't matter what two things under consideration, you're still going to get crap coming out of the center of it. And that crap is a financial instrument called the soul. That's why the tunnel that the soul is supposed to come up into at the end of its life is actually what you're coming down. It's where the sun comes out of a giant anus, right? The Virgin Mary is a transgender, right? She's a hermaphrodite. She can't have a child. So where do you think Jesus comes from? Right? He's an orphan that's been adopted by the story, just like you're supposed to be adopted. And it's a cognitive dissonance that's never solved by that story. Right? And it's commensurate with all of the industrial claims upon your flesh and blood at different linguistic, cultural levels throughout 1,000 years of human time, and projected into 1,000 years and interpolated into 1,000 years of human time, which you call 2,000 years. And in fact, they added 1,000 years on top of it, just for extra confusion. But, enjoy your latte this morning. The Middle Ages never happened. Greece never happened. Rome never happened. Egypt never happened. All made up. It's all xenophobia to cover up the real world. They thought that there's no structure in the world that it was arrived at in the bloodiest possible way. A strong indicator that you should obey it. Just stories. The world could be held by dickless, impotent, gray white men who'd be pushed over by a strong breeze, and you wouldn't know it. My mom lines herself up with female narcissistic sociopaths, and they import. So she was talking to this one lady. I was standing a couple hundred feet away, just wondering who this person was, because whenever someone takes my mother's time, it's always a female, and they're never good people. Like, it's cold out. My mom had to pick up the dog, and said it was getting cold. I had to take him in. And I said to my mom, I said, this woman? Louise, if next time you see her, see if she shows any appreciation for how cold it is and that your dog might be getting cold. Right? Just see. Just a way to test people. Right? Because you've shown her that you can't get too cold while talking to her because you have an old dog. So she's exposing my dog to distress. Right? Talking about nonsense, probably. This is the same woman who sexually harassed me when she didn't know who I was. Didn't know I lived in the building. Right? That's a problem person. But you expect that because the manager's kind of weird. Most women in the building are sociopaths. It lowers your quality of life. Right? And this person was violent to me for no reason. Right? So she'll have to leave the building. She's got what I call these sort of thin, faux birthing hips. They're thin women, they have wide hips, but there's no chance of ever getting birth to a child. And they're particularly aggressive. There's lots of different female bodies that are aggressive. Like the one ahead of me, which is squarish, flat, large jowls, thick neck. There's cultural prohibitions against littering, but not against being a glutton. I need to clean the house. Clean this $5 million house. Well, I'm driving her, releasing her tiny little compact vehicle. Probably gets paid $25 an hour. She make maybe, $75 to $100 today on that house that nobody ever really lives in. She probably lives in some tight little apartment with subsidies from the government. Poor work for the rich. They could pay her double that. But they don't because they pay the competitive rate. As long as you follow the world, you never have to be generous. When they charge rent, they charge as much as they can. They always charge the maximum that the market can bear. And those that don't, well, they want to pound your flesh at some point. It's only because they're attracted to you or they want to rape you or something. Or they haven't seen women who rent cabins only to females. And then because she wants the female to have sex with one of her sons. They basically use the renter as a prostitute and they become the madam. Think about the mental issues of that type of mother who wants to madam strange women to have sex with her strange sons. Right? And they did a profile on these women. They all had similar, we're all narcissists themselves, similar mental profiles, similar body language, style of voice, everything. She was finding enough of these women that she could rent the apartment to the same type of women consecutively. She didn't want to rent to men by her own admission because it was a female-oriented area. So you see what women do to each other, right? You can't trust them. So you got lower rent. Isn't that nice? Right? So when women charge lower rent, it's because they want something in return. Right? I had a woman rent a place to me, moderate, 2 different women in a row. Both of them sexually assaulted me at some point. And friends of theirs did the same thing. That's what you get for your low rent. Right? And these are professional people who work in the mental health field, things like that. One of my first rapists was a female engineer, married from another country, German. Right? I was still just a teenager, living with my mom in an apartment. My mom was present when it happened in her bedroom. And spent years telling people that I had raped her and not the other way around. So women have a lot of protection, you see, a lot of protection in committing sexual crimes against boys and men and other women. The woman down the hall that hurt my mother and me, that she still talks about being friends with, she's a prostitute and a madam. Got young girls to have sex with strange men. And strange men who would go online and pay to have sex with her. Disgusting wildebeest who has sexually abused both of her children, one of them into brain damage for the rest of his life. Helped my mother dislocate my shoulder and raped me on Christmas Day about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm still recovering from it. Fascinating, eh? But my mom thinks that she's a perfect angel. She is. She has a mental illness. Right? And her fucking family raped her when she was 5. She had a couple sisters, one couple older and one younger, who eventually died in a tractor accident. She watches the TV show where a young girl dies in a tractor accident. And I tell her, Mom, this episode is about sexual abuse. She says, no, it's not. She dies in a tractor. I said, Mom, when people are sexually abused, right, they know accidents happen because it weakens your field, your energy field, right? You ever had a day when you're angry and you become accident prone? Because your field has been weakened. It's interesting, these women who live in these communities, that when they drive by me, they feel the need to honk or wave from their cars, and they're not even friends with me. They barely even know me. And all they ever do when they see me is talk about themselves. Hear that?